expenses are money you spend, an asset pays you, and a liability costs you. Now let's look at what the poor buy on payday. On payday, the poor buy what I'm going to call stuff. What is stuff? Inexpensive things that people buy that they don't really need to survive. You go into someone's house and you can't find any counter or tabletop space in the whole house because of all the stuff on it. You can't find a single foot of white space on any wall in their house because of all the stuff that's hanging on it. Where did they get this stuff? They bought it at the flea market, at the garage sale, at the dollar store, at the craft show. Their house and their car is full and cluttered with stuff. So income comes in on payday and then goes straight out the expense column to buy stuff. The poor really never educate themselves on assets and liabilities. The poor justify their buying all of this stuff by claiming that it costs so little. Yes, it was very cheap, inexpensive, not a lot of money, but over the years, it's all they ever had. The problem is their income never produced or created more income. I know this group very well because this was me. This was the way I was raised. I, in no way, am cutting or undermining this group of people or any other group. I just see a lot of financial pain out there and that need not be that way. I only want to help you, and hopefully you'll pass this information on to people you care about. Creating wealth is not a mystery. It's a formula. The only reason someone doesn't create wealth is because they don't know or don't apply the formula. Let's continue on and look at the middle class. The middle class is the group that society mistakenly thinks are the rich. They are not. Yes, they typically earn a six-figure income, but what they buy on payday keeps them prisoners of the middle class. What they buy on payday are liabilities. Remember the definition of a liability? Things that cost you? By buying liabilities, the money gets pushed up and out their expense column. Liabilities are items like cars, boats, houses, airplanes, credit card debt. Let me explain the way this happens. On payday, the middle class make a nice big paycheck. Let's say $15,000 for the month. They then split that down the middle and pay their monthly expenses with half, and with the other half, they make a down payment on a new car. The car costs $7,000 down, and after they tack on the insurance and the maintenance, that liability costs them $1,100 new every single month. A few months go by and they want a boat, then a vacation home, a Rolex watch on the credit card, a vacation on the credit card, and before you know it, their liabilities have raised the expense levels to near or above their income levels. They actually spend equal to or more than they make, meaning that they have to go to work and make a certain amount of money every single month because of their liabilities. The other important issue with both the poor and the middle class is that normally all of their income is dependent on their own effort, meaning they've educated themselves to exchange their knowledge and expertise for someone's money. Here's an example. An attorney is knowledgeable about law, so people pay him or her money in exchange for that knowledge on an hourly basis. The problem there is that if they're not, the attorney, sharing that knowledge with a client, then the attorney is not making any money. Their stress level is as tight as a piano string. And if you were to ask them to go to dinner with you, they very rarely can because of how much money it'll cost them to take that time off. On the surface, life is merry. The reality is that it's a roller coaster ride. That's the middle class. Now let's look at what the wealthy buy. On payday, the wealthy buy assets. Again, an asset is something that pays you. If you want to become wealthy, buy assets that then earn you more income. The money wheel looks like this. Buy assets that produce cash, that then buy more assets that produce more cash, that then buy more assets that produce more cash. The wealthy spend their money and buy things that produce more money. Here's a couple of examples of assets that produce more income. Investments are the obvious: stocks, bonds, real estate. Education is another asset. If you learn how to do something and actually do it, that produces more income. That's buying an asset. I heard a great expression once. If you think education is expensive, you should see how expensive stupidity is. Another example of assets you can buy that pay you is businesses, especially those businesses that can create a passive income. Passive meaning that once you build it up, it pays you whether you're still building it or not. A little example is, if you buy a pinball machine and put it in a barber shop, you don't spend any of the profits. You save them until you can buy another pinball machine and put it in another barber shop. This, by the way, was Warren Buffett's first business. Warren Buffett, by the way, is one of the top 2 richest men in America. The wealthy are extremely eager to find those passive income businesses because it continues to pay them month after month, year after year, long after they've stopped working the business. That's actually the way I created my millions. I found a passive income business that I built up, and it continues to pay me month after month, year after year. I then took those profits and multiplied them in another passive money business, and then again in another. In conclusion, here's what I've learned. You can't find these passive money businesses unless you're open to hearing about them. Then once you find them, be willing to research them. The reason I say this is that I answered a hokey little ad that I ended up making a couple of $1 million from, simply because of that ad. So these businesses are out there. You just got to find them. You've also got to be educated enough that when the right situation does present itself, you don't miss it. So remember, the poor buy stuff, the middle class buy liabilities, and the wealthy buy assets, preferably businesses that can create passive money. Then take that money and buy another asset that produces more money. That's the wealth creation formula. I sincerely hope that you've learned a couple of things from this explanation. I'm Tim Sales.
Geirange Fjord.
I'm Severin Suzukii, speaking for ECHO, the Environmental Children's Organization. We're a group of 12 and 13-year-olds trying to make a difference. Vanessa Setti, Morgan Geisler, Michelle Quigg, and me. We've raised all the money to come here ourselves, to come 5,000 miles to tell you adults you must change your ways. Coming up here today, I have no hidden agenda. I am fighting for my future. Losing my future is not like losing an election or a few points on the stock market. I am here to speak for all generations to come. I am here to speak on behalf of the starving children around the world whose cries go unheard. I am here to speak for the countless animals dying across this planet because they have nowhere left to go. I am afraid to go out in the sun now because of the holes in our ozone. I am afraid to breathe the air because I don't know what chemicals are in it. I used to go fishing in Vancouver, my home, with my dad, until just a few years ago we found the fish full of cancers. And now we hear of animals and plants going extinct, every day vanishing forever. In my life, I have dreamt of seeing the great herds of wild animals, jungles and rainforests full of birds and butterflies. But now I wonder if they will even exist for my children to see. Did you have to worry of these things when you were my age? All this is happening before our eyes, and yet we act as if we have all the time we want and all the solutions. I'm only a child, and I don't have all the solutions. But I want you to realize, neither do you. You don't know how to fix the holes in our ozone layer. You don't know how to bring the salmon back up a dead stream. You don't know how to bring back an animal now extinct. And you can't bring back the forest that once grew where there is now a desert. If you don't know how to fix it, please stop breaking it. Here, you may be delegates of your government, business people, organizers, reporters, or politicians. But really, your mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, aunts and uncles, and all of you are someone's child. I'm only a child, yet I know we are all part of a family, 5 billion strong. In fact, 30 million species strong. And borders and governments will never change that. I'm only a child, yet I know we are all in this together and should act as one single world towards one single goal. In my anger, I am not blind, and in my fear, I am not afraid of telling the world how I feel. In my country, we make so much waste. We buy and throw away, and yet northern countries will not share with the needy. Even when we have more than enough, we are afraid to share. We are afraid to let go of some of our wealth. In Canada, we live the privileged life, with plenty of food, water, and shelter. We have watches, bicycles, computers, and television sets. The list could go on for 2 days. 2 days ago, here in Brazil, we were shocked when we spent time with some children living on the streets. This is what one child told us. I wish I was rich. And if I were, I would give all the street children food, clothes, medicines, shelter, and love and affection. If a child on the streets who has nothing is willing to share, why are we who have everything still so greedy? I can't stop thinking that these are children my own age, that it makes a tremendous difference where you were born. That I could be one of those children living in the favelas in Rio. I could be a child starving in Somalia, or a victim of war in the Middle East, or a beggar in India. I am only a child, yet I know if all the money spent on war was spent on finding environmental answers, ending poverty, and finding treaties, what a wonderful place this earth would be. At school, even in kindergarten, you teach us how to behave in the world. You teach us not to fight with others, to work things out, to respect others, to clean up our mess, not to hurt other creatures, to share, not be greedy. Then why do you go out and do the things you tell us not to do? Do not forget why you are attending these conferences, who you're doing this for. We are your own children. You are deciding what kind of world you're growing up in. Parents should be able to comfort their children by saying, everything's going to be all right. It's not the end of the world, and we're doing the best we can. But I don't think you can say that to us anymore. Are we even on your list of priorities? My dad always says, you are what you do, not what you say. Well, what you do makes me cry at night. You grown-ups say you love us, but I challenge you, please, make your actions reflect your words. Thank you.
за 15 дни.